My name is Angèle Taylor, and I'm a strategic solutions architect here with 4Point. And today on 4Point Pathways, I want to talk to you about how you can start moving forward towards creating better data capture for your end users. So through this whole process, we looked at what a document was, what a form was. We looked at how to, or why rather, we should spend the time to actually even bother creating better forms for us. We did an example. I showed you what you could have potentially if you wanted to move forward, because that's where the technology is at now. We're not at print forms anymore. The technology is far more advanced and customers are expecting it. They're expecting that kind of user experience. So I'm hoping I've sold you on that, and that's why you're watching this video, to try to figure out, okay, I'm on the print form. How do I move forward? How do I get to that beautiful example you showed us? And the first thing I want to recommend is take the time to figure out what forms you have. You will be surprised how many people do not know how many forms they have. Not only do you have tons of versions, you have different variances, and people have created their own versions that some people may know about, some other people may not know about. You might have some that are no longer being used. You'd be surprised how many people have all of these versions that are just not being used. And the reason I say that is because you can't understand how much work it will be without fully understanding what's out there, right? You got to get your arms around it to be able to say, this is how many I have. And people have thousands and thousands of forms. It's typical, right? It's not a shock. And if you're creating new data captures, you want to make sure that you're not missing any of them. With that said, you also want to make sure that, do you need all of them? And the reason I say that is not because they're not being used, it's because they're just flavors of each other. A good example of that is based off of geographical location. Certain states or certain provinces might be allowed to offer something that other ones may not. You also have different languages. In Canada, we have to have everything bilingual. So you see a lot of English and French forms. In the States, it's a lot of English and Spanish forms. So it's literally the same form. It has all the same field elements. It's just the text is a different language. So these kind of things don't really mean that you need to have two different versions. It's not two different documents. This is the same document, just in a different language. And the same thing when you have different variants on geographical locations. It's still the same form. I just need to hide this clause. So it's better to create a list of one that has everything in it and hide the things that aren't necessary for different people. And that's what the technology allows you to do. You get that really robust flexibility in forms, lowering the number that you need to maintain and use going forward. The higher it is, the higher the cost. So yes, it may take time to create the more complex version of this one form, but now you don't have to have 50 for each state and then 100 because you have to create English and Spanish versions. Like it's exponential. So you really want to make sure you understand, what do you have, so you can know where to go. Once you have an idea of what you've got, let's look at reusable sections. We want to be able to highlight what sections are going to be reused over and over and over again. My favorite one is an address block, because everybody has an address block. You have contact information and you have an address block. This is something that you're going to use over and over and over again. And we want to be able to highlight all of those. So you build it once, you test it once, and you roll it out to all of the places where it will be used. This modular design allows for maintenance and operational costs to come down, which is what you want. This is going to be a big exercise. It is going to cost money. It is work that needs to be done. If we can do it correctly at the front, you will save money and time long term. So it's really important that we're able to do that analysis to be able to understand what is going on in these forms and documents and where can we reuse things. Once we have that understood, we need to understand, how far do you want to go, right? We've highlighted what forms we actually need, where can we consolidate stuff. We understand all of that, but how far in the process do you want to go? If you are at the I need to print the form and you fill it out with pen, do you just want to be able to fill it out in the web browser? Or do you want to go all the way to the extreme and be able to have that flexible adaptive form that allows people to fill it out on their mobile phones or their desktop computers, giving them that power? Where do you want to sit? Again, there's a cost associated with it, and knowing where you came from and where you want to go will allow you to build out a plan, because it may make sense to just go to a web version that is not mobile friendly right away, just so that way you have it. And it might make more sense to just skip that process and go to the end. It depends on your use case, and understanding what forms you have will allow you a better idea of where you need to go. Further than that, you have a large stockpile of forms that you need to do. I assure you, there is a large number. We're not looking at like one or two. We're talking hundreds and thousands of forms. So if that's the case, you also want to be able to prioritize. You will get more bang for your buck for certain forms than other ones. And doing the more important ones first will allow more people from your team to understand the benefit of it. It's going to show you your ROI, you're going to have more impact, and people are going to be like, oh yeah, I can totally see why we paid money to do this. Versus if you pick a very small form just to get it done and under your belt, if it's not used anywhere, no one's going to know you did it and there's no impact. You want to pick something bigger that has impact. Bigger is not the right word. Just because it's long doesn't mean it's meaningful. You want to pick something that's meaningful. You want something that people use regularly and will notice that it's being done. So if it's your enrollment, you want to focus on that, or if you want to do something for retention, highlight where your biggest concerns are and focus there first. Keeping in mind that you want to make sure that you're still doing your modular design, because you can reuse those pieces later. Again, like an address block, those things are always going to be used in other forms. So if you do it correctly in the first one, downstream, you'll see the benefit of it. This can be a very complex process, and people do feel overwhelmed with it. There's a lot there if you've never done it. This is something that 4Point does on a regular basis. We are experts at it. We are here to support you and help you along the entire process, from being able to help you plan out to being able to actually do the work for you and everything in between. So if you're having any reservations, or if you're excited to be able to start, we are here to help you. Please reach out to us and we will do our best to make sure that you get your forms to that place that you and your organization feel comfortable. Thank you.